Hey friends, my name is Brooke Bierhaus and I am an award-winning documentary filmmaker and travel host, photojournalist who has worked around the world in 22 countries over the last 8 years now. I am giving you my top tips for how to document people in their natural spaces and public spaces, but still respecting boundaries. It's really important as a travel photographer and as a documentary filmmaker or reporter that you are respectful of people in public spaces, and if they want to be on camera, if they don't. But how to keep that authenticity, it's such a balance between that, because you want to get people in their natural habitat, but you also don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. Well, I've kind of mastered how to do that. I still have days whenever I don't feel super comfortable, but these are my top 5 tips for how to master street photography while respecting boundaries. Here we go. My first tip is always the trusty point, nod, confirmation, go. So how that works is if I were going to photograph you right now, we're in the street, the light is hitting you perfect, and I want to get the shot, I would be looking here. You'd actually make eye contact with me. I'd point. You'd say yes, or a verbal nod, and we go. My second tip is always to show the photo that you've taken. So whether you got that point and nod first confirmation or not, sometimes you take the photo because you didn't get their confirmation before, please go up and show them what you've taken. It's really important to show that moment that you captured and to let them know that you're not just trying to take a moment away and walk away, just pointing, shooting randomly, that you actually have intention, and sometimes it makes for the best connections. I love showing people the photos that I take of them and having them be so surprised and excited and want me to send that photo to them, because a lot of people don't have great photos of themselves at work or just day-to-day activities. So definitely don't be shy about sharing what you've captured. My third tip is to learn the phrase, "Can I take your photo?" in the native language. It might seem a little intimidating, but learning the languages and asking in the native language of the area that you're in is so important. So if you learn, "Can I take your photo?" Learn yes and no, so you know what the response is. Learn "thank you," and then of course always learn like a hello. Even if people know English and then you continue to have conversations in English if that's your native language, or maybe Spanish or French, you can still ask in their native language, and it just levels the playing field and makes people feel super comfortable. So that's always been a great tip that I recommend and use all the time. The fourth tip actually isn't from me. I stole this one from Magnum photographer Chris Steele Perkins. So Chris says, photograph things in the way you feel is right, not the way you think you ought to. I really love this piece of advice, to photograph things in the way that you feel right, not the way that you think you ought to, because you don't need to replicate other photos that have been taken as a travel photographer or a documentary filmmaker or documentarian in general. Tell the story and what feels right. So whether that's moving someone into a different light, or maybe just showcasing their hands instead of that full-on portrait that we always see. Maybe get them off to the side, get them working, get them interacting with people. There's a lot of things that happen in daily life that can tell a story better than what we've even seen before. So go with how you feel that story should be conveyed. And the fifth tip that I always use is to explain your vision. So let's say you've already done the trusty point, nod, awesome. You've taken their photo, you've done the second tip of showing them what you've captured, and maybe you're thinking about like leaving, but you're not super happy with how the photo turned out. It's not necessarily what you were thinking. My top tip for that is stand there, talk a little bit, connect, wait for them to then relax and get back into their natural state and just demeanor, and then start snapping away again. But if you've established a connection with that person, you can always tell them your vision. Maybe you want to incorporate the smoke that's happening in a barbecue place, and you're just not getting the right shutter speed to really get them because they're moving too fast. Then explain what you're doing and maybe give a little bit of direction so that you can really get that moment that you've envisioned in your mind. Please be sure that you are aware of where you are at all times, that you're not hyper-focused on your photos. I've worked in post-conflict areas, in areas where I needed to be on high alert around the world as well, and even in my own backyard. So being sure that you know what's going on in your surroundings is first and foremost the most important thing you can do for your safety, but also the safety of the people that you are around and who you're photographing. So whether that's just being aware of if the energy shifts and you feel like maybe you shouldn't be taking this photo, or that someone has been like following you with your expensive camera gear, just be aware of all of that and follow your intuition and trust your gut. I promise it won't steer you wrong.